And then Jackie pauses it and looks over at me. You look over at me and you're like,
I said,
do you think this way?
Yeah, I said,
like,
do you have that voice?
And it's like it hit me for the first time. And I looked over at her like with fear in my eyes and I said, you don't?
Welcome to the Two is Greater podcast, where we share our experiences with all the ups and the downs of working together without killing each other.
You know I like doing that.
Well, I like to do it too.
Oh.
You better just jump in then.
Here we
can do
go.
it together.
Not yet, anyway. Welcome back.
Woo!
So you got to bring the energy.
2023!
First podcast of the year.
First podcast of the year.
All right, so for those of you that don't follow us on social media, Jackie and I do these grazing boards. I should say Jackie does this grazing board.
I do it.
To feed an army of people, and it's just us two, every New Year's Eve. It's been a 4-year standing tradition at this point. And we just sit down and we just munch on some goodies and we set some goals. We set some goals for the year. We look back at the goals that we set the year prior and see how many of those like we actually were able to meet and did not accomplish. And so it was fun. It's always a lot of fun. But, everybody's talking about goal setting first of the year.
Yeah.
What's happening 2023, what's going down. So I'm about to ask you, Jackie, what's going down with Jackie 2023? What's one of your goals?
Oh, okay. I have a ton of goals. Some of them are not great, but one of them I'm excited about is I want to become the kind of person that does cold plunges. Or cold showers. You saving the hot water for me? No. I will take a shower that melts my skin off, and then I will jump into the cold water because it is very difficult. And really the idea behind it for me is I want to become the kind of person that does hard things, and because...
Like challenge yourself.
Yes, challenge myself because it's very much out of my comfort zone. So here's to growth in 2023, right? Yay! But
because like we talked about last week, right? Or last episode, you usually take the path of least resistance.
Definitely.
So this year you're going to challenge yourself to choose to do things.
Choose to do hard things.
Choose to do difficult things.
Yes.
Awesome.
I'm excited for it.
I think they say there's some health benefits to that as well.
There's a ton of hype behind it. Apparently it's supposed to help with body inflammation. Some people have healed themselves of certain ailments in their skin or whatever, but I'm excited for it. Honestly, it just jolts me awake in the mornings because it is shocking how cold it is.
Yeah, so it's supposed to shock you out of your sleep cycle. If you wake up in the middle of a REM cycle or deep sleep and even though you got enough sleep, you still feel groggy. It's supposed to really shock you out of that and wake you up and bring you back to that refreshed state, I guess. I don't know. It is fun. I've been doing it as well. And it's very interesting to say the least.
I just want to toot my own horn because I can do 2.5 minutes and Tyler can only do 1.
I choose to only do 1.
That's true.
I choose to do 1 minute every day.
That's true.
Instead of trying to go all out and then ended up not doing it at some point. So
consistency's key.
But now we broke the ice. We'll get into today's episode.
Let's do it.
The moment you've all been waiting for. Probably not. But last week we talked about, our last episode, I should say, we talked about Jackie's Enneagram type. She's a type 9 and all the challenges that she faces with that and all the personal growth. And she was very courageous to share a lot of that stuff. And so if you haven't listened to that one, make sure you go back and take a listen. But it all sparked from, a few years ago. Was it 6 years ago? Is that what we decided?
Yeah, that's about right.
That we listened to the audiobook of The Road Back to You from Ian Morgan Cron. And we're actually going to, link that in the show notes to our Amazon, I don't know, influencer store, whatever. I don't know what that stuff is. But I'm also going to drop some other books in there as well, Enneagram resources and things that I think that you'll really enjoy if you want to get into this. We've had several people reach out since the last episode, and they've just dove in and it's, sparked their interest in Enneagram, which I think is a very a very good tool for self-awareness and self-growth, right? Because we can't give to God and we can't surrender over to God what we're not aware of, right? Because God is not just going to pull it out of us as much as we'd say, God, just take everything away from me that is not good or that is, still hurting me or still affecting me from my past. Like, we actually have to surrender those over. Mm-hmm. And so we can't surrender over what we're not aware of. And a lot of times we're not aware of those things because we've either been on autopilot or we just don't know. Or like in my case, I thought it was normal.
Oh.
I did. I really did. I thought it was normal. It was really, it blew my mind. It was literally like just earth-quaking, earth-shattering, groundbreaking to discover my Enneagram type.
All right, so what type are you? You're a type 1.
Type 1, baby.
Type 1, baby.
Just like the diabetes.
It's not like a diabetes. You are a type 1. Enneagram type 1 is a reformer or a perfectionist.
Yeah. The worst one. It's the worst number there is.
It is not.
Oh, 100%.
Listen, everybody feels that way about their Enneagram number.
No, they don't.
Yes, they do. Are you kidding me? I was like, I'm a 9. I suck.
No, you're like, at least I'm not a 1.
Well, there are some times when I'm like, ugh.
See, I knew it.
Okay, so talk to us about being a 1. Whew. How'd you know? Where did it start?
It's awful.
No.
It is awful.
You're amazing.
So the 1s are what the world needs, but not what the world likes.
That's a little harsh, but okay.
It's true. It's true. Nobody likes to be corrected. And so, I don't know. We were listening to the book, of course, and we get to same story as Jackie's. Right. So we talk to a lot of people about this, and anyone who's ever dove into it, don't take the test. Don't take a test. Become self-aware. Read the book. Try to relate. Try to understand your thought patterns. That's where you're really going to grow from this, right? So that's why we really encourage you just to read the book. Take the time to read the book instead of taking some kind of test, because it's not like just some kind of disc test. And no shade at disc, but where you just kind of discover this stuff and you just kind of take it for what it is. It's a little bit more organic than that. And so we're listening to this book, and of course we have, characteristics of all types, but there's one that's super strong. And so we get to mine. It's very much like Jackie's story. I'm just yep, this guy is just reading my mail. He's literally just following me around, knows exactly, he just knows me.
Yeah. He's literally put words to what you felt and thought.
Yeah, really articulates, how I've always felt and the way that I think and process things. But what really caught my attention was I said, we were listening to it, and I told Jackie, I was like, this is me. Mm-hmm. This is without a doubt me. And of course there was a funny part, where
I know exactly what you're about to say.
The beginning of each chapter about each types, there's statements, which are thoughts or something that type might say, something that really heavily pertains, just a little snippet of that personality. Mm-hmm. And one of them was, don't you just hate when somebody squeezes the toothpaste from the middle? And it was literally a day before, 2 days before, I called Jackie a savage because she squeezed it from the middle. Well, basically what I said was she has sensitive teeth. So she has her own sensitive teeth toothpaste. And I don't mess with that. Right. So we're not the weird people that's you have your own toothpaste because you squeeze it wrong. I'm not a freak, but she would occasionally use my toothpaste because she says my teeth are so wide, and she thinks it's because of my toothpaste, and she's so jealous. So she'll sneak in and use some of my toothpaste, which is totally fine. But I just tell her hey, it's okay. But by the way, I just want you to know, I know when you use my toothpaste. And she's like, how could you possibly know that?
I'm always trying to be sneaky.
And I said, because you squeeze it from the middle like a savage.
I about died.
And what? And so it's okay. It's not a big deal, right? So in the past, I was not that healthy, and I was a freak about it. And so even to the point where my sister and I would share toothpaste tube growing up. and she would just squeeze the life out of it. Like,
just manhandle
oh
it.
my gosh, it's like one of those little like toys that you squeeze it and the eyes bug out. Like that's what she was doing with her toothpaste. And I'm like, what are you doing? It's just like crinkled up. Like, I mean, it's like just crushing a soda can.
Raisin.
And I'm like, what are you doing? Like, I can't even get toothpaste out of here because you just squeezed it so hard. And I would even highlight the instructions on there that said to squeeze from the bottom. I would highlight it so that she would see it.
You did not.
I still don't think she's ever even acknowledged that I did that.
Probably not.
But if she listens to this, she'll know.
Cough, cough.
But I think she knew. I think she saw it because I think she washed it off. Or it just rubbed off because it was just a highlighter on a toothpaste tube.
So anyway, did y'all just like fight about it or what?
No. Oh, okay. It was just, but it definitely got under my skin. It definitely bothered me, which it doesn't anymore. It's like totally no big deal. But
growth.
But anyway, it's like that was kind of the first indicator, especially to you. But then when like we're listening to this, and so really what's super
unique.
I guess, yeah, unique is maybe the word I was looking for. What's super unique to type 1s, Enneagram type 1s, is this like inner critic, like this voice of criticism. It's basically just this voice that's always overanalyzing everything and like telling you all the ways that something could have been done better or something could have been said better. And it's mostly internal, but oftentimes type 1s externalize that, right? So they think that they're actually helping someone by telling them why or how they did something wrong or how they could do it better. And nobody really likes that. And I just wondered why I didn't have any close friends when I was a kid. And, I wasn't, nobody wanted to be corrected. But I really thought I was helping, and, but we get to that part and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, and like my mind is just kind of spinning. And then Jackie pauses it and looks over me. You look over at me and you're like,
I said,
do you think this way?
Yeah, I said, like, do you have that voice?
And it's like it hit me for the first time. And I looked over at her like with fear in my eyes and I said, you don't?
And I said, no, I don't.
And it's like my heart sank into my stomach. Like for the first time in my entire life, what was I, 29? 29 years old. And I literally just realized that not everyone processes the world that way.
Yeah.
That not everyone like thinks about their life and the things that they do and the things that they see and the things that happen around them through this filter of criticism. And it's like perfectionism, like to a T, like how things could be improved, right? Because type 1's, one of their nicknames is improver, right? That's
the reformer.
Yeah, that's one of my favorites is the improver. It's what I prefer. It's a little more positive.
It's more accurate too, I think. But
at this stage in my life, but back then, throughout history, it hasn't been that way, but I don't know. Like it just blew my mind.
So like, how did you like process that afterward?
I didn't. Like, I'm just like, I can't believe this. Like, and honestly, I felt trapped. I felt trapped by this like perpetual negativity and bitterness that comes along with like always seeing the negative in everything. And it's really like, a lot of times, your fellow type 1s may actually, be misidentified as just someone who's a pessimist, right? Because I really thought of myself as a very optimistic person.
Yeah.
And I felt like I had a lot of optimistic thoughts, but yet the things that stuck out the most in my mind were all the negative, not really the negative things, but all the things that were wrong, right? It made me really good at the job that I was doing. It makes me really good at, a lot of the detail work and the things about real estate.
Yeah.
But it just in the moment, it felt terrible. And of course, this was before we even started a real estate business, but I'm just like, oh my gosh, like I'm trapped. Like I've always felt this way and I'm always going to feel this way.
Yeah.
And I'm always going to battle with this. And it's like I went through such a huge transformation. I had no idea that like I was still dealing with a lot of this stuff from my past. And it's like, it really wasn't anything from my past. It was just thought patterns that I've always had that I didn't know weren't normal.
Mm-hmm.
And so really and truly, like I just had to give that over to God, but I hated myself.
Yeah.
Like I literally hated myself for the way that I was and having to always, see the negative in things. And it was like, my goodness, like I just see this everywhere. Like I've projected this on so many people, and it's just come off as negativity or just being arrogant or maybe even a know-it-all. And it's like I literally thought that I was helping, and now I realize like I was not helping at all. Nobody wants to hear that. Like I don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
And what was really so crazy is processing that and thinking through that and just praying about it and realizing that was what pushed me down the road to addiction.
Wow.
That up until that moment, I had no idea. I really thought that I just partied when I was a teenager and made some bad decisions, and it ended up leading to addiction.
Yeah.
And then I started to realize like it wasn't about, just me partying and making bad decisions.
Yeah. I
was literally trying to quieten this voice of criticism.
Wow, you're trying to escape.
I was just trying to escape. I was trying to distract myself, and I was really wanting to be free from that. What I wanted was to forgive myself. I just didn't know that's what I needed.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
I had no idea. And that was my intentions, right? That was the life that I wanted to live, but I took a shortcut to get there because that was all that I knew. Yeah. I didn't know that what I was feeling wasn't normal. I never felt plagued by it because that was how I always saw the world. That was how I always filtered everything. And so I had no idea that wasn't the normal way to process things.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that no one else, or that, not the majority of people would, lay awake in bed and just think about the conversations they had that day and how they should have said something differently. And the person that I was talking to might have received it differently than I intended. And that would just tear me up. And a lot of times it would cause me to just be super quiet and shy, because the worst feeling in the world to me was to be embarrassed and to feel embarrassment.
Yeah.
So the way to, and because of that criticism, I think, because I just couldn't let that go.
Right.
Like it would just play over and over and over again. And so the number one way I could prevent that was just not do or say anything and just be quiet and shy.
Wow. You just like became a hermit almost.
I don't know if I would say a hermit, but like, well, here in the South, everybody says, well, he's just bashful.
Bashful.
Like, no, I'm not bashful. I just hated myself. Like I didn't want to mess up.
Right.
Like I just didn't want to mess up. And that's really kind of what it boils down to in its most basic form. It's like, yeah, I wanted to avoid embarrassment, but I didn't want to mess up.
Right.
Because I would process it over and over. I'd break it down and think about it over and over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Of like, how I messed up. And it wasn't just constantly like kicking myself when I'm down, but it's like this constant need to like play over my mistakes so that I could get better at them. Oh. But like there was no grace involved. So like I didn't want to try again. Oh. Without grace, there was no desire, no permission for me to try again.
Right. It was just, you didn't do this right.
Right. Yeah. I don't have to worry about doing this perfectly if I don't do it.
Right. I feel that.
So I just didn't try. I just didn't do anything. And I think a lot of that, bled into like my schoolwork and all this stuff, because like I was like, always making awesome grades through elementary school until I started getting older. Until 7th grade kind of started sloping off. 8th grade, was starting to really see some negative changes in my grades. And then by the time I got to high school, I was struggling. I failed like 2 classes my freshman year. And, it was really, looking back, it was when like the social aspects of life became more important.
Wow.
And I was just withdrawing, as thing. And also, school got more difficult. Right. It didn't just come naturally to me. I actually had to work at it and had to study more and more and had to pay attention and, all this stuff. So anyway, it was easier not to try, because I didn't have to deal with the internal fallout of my mistakes if I didn't make them.
Yeah, if you didn't even try, then
If I didn't make any mistakes. Yeah, I mean, if
no way to fail.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think when I discovered alcohol and started drinking and binge drinking, I felt the first taste of freedom from that I didn't care. I didn't care. It didn't hold me back anymore. I could just go out and have fun and cut loose and just be an idiot and have fun and not worry about like doing the wrong thing or saying the wrong thing or doing anything, everything perfectly. I just had fun and didn't worry about it and didn't care. Yeah. And then when I discovered pain pills, is like, I can feel like this. All the things I liked about getting drunk, I can feel like that all the time. I can still go to work. I can still go to school. I can still be around my family that doesn't, support any of that kind of stuff. And I don't have to feel insecure anymore. I don't have to feel withdrawn or held back, by my need to feel, need for everything to be perfect.
Right.
I just didn't care anymore. Like it was okay to mess up because I just, I was high. I was feeling good.
That voice was quiet.
The voice was quiet. It was not talking back. I could have conversation with strangers and, do whatever. And at that point, it was a slippery slope because I would feel, when I was sober, I would feel this extreme anxiety. It became more and more overwhelming. Once I knew what it was like to take a break from it, it made it more difficult to go back to it.
Yeah.
And so that's why I say like, this is such a, it's such a powerful tool. Like it's not the end all be all. It's not everything, right? I had already received a tremendous amount of transformation from God and given everything over to God. I've been completely set free from drugs and alcohol and everything. And, no longer struggled with it. Like I was what I thought to be a very healthy person, but that just really goes to show like, no matter how self-aware we think we are, we can always be more self-aware. And that could be scary to a lot of people, and it should be scary, but like, it's just something we got to do. Like you taking the cold showers, like because, you want to challenge yourself to do things that you don't want to do or that are not comfortable or maybe not enjoyable, but they're good for you. Like that's what it's all about. And that's what it was all about for me. But like I went through a really dark period of like, I just don't like who I am. And I really thought I thought I was different. Like I thought I wouldn't have to struggle with this type of stuff anymore. And it's like, God set me free from drugs and alcohol and just me being really a crappy person and lying and cheating and all this other stuff, that I did in my addiction. And I've been set free from all that. But like this voice of criticism has been there the whole time. It's never went away.
Yeah.
And that was what was so, I guess, challenging for me to see and so challenging for me to realize is like, it's always been there.
So now that you're like aware of that voice, and how it affected your past, so like, how did you come back out of it? Like you were saved, like radically redeemed from drugs and alcohol. Like, do you feel like you had to be like radically redeemed again? Like now that you were aware of this voice of criticism, like how did you come back out of it?
I mean, I don't think it's quite like a redemption, but like I had to give it over to God because I didn't know how to deal with it. Like it was literally driving me insane.
Yeah.
And I just said, God, I don't know what to do with this, but I know that you're the one that can rescue me out of this. You're the one that can make something out of this. If anything can be done with this, it's going to be you. And, just days of not feeling great, but feeling hopeful and just trusting God.
Yeah.
And I think that's how I spent a lot of my adult life, after I gave everything over to God, was really just like, this sucks, but I'm trusting God.
Yeah.
And it sucks right now, but like, it's going to get better.
Yeah.
And I don't know how, but I just believe that it will. And I really, through that process, it's like I never fully understood grace and forgiveness until I went through that, until I battled with that, until I realized that. And it's like, gosh, it's forgiveness in the little things. It's literally permission to try and to fail and to be okay with it, because you're going to move forward and to move forward, right? And to actually move forward and say, you know what, like, failure is part of the process. It's going to happen. Like, no matter what, like, the only option to not failing is to not try. And I did that. And it sucked. And it put me in a deep, dark, bad place that drove me into addiction. And so I knew, like, it's forgiveness is the answer. Grace is the answer. Like, if you're a type 1 out there listening, like, right now, like, God's forgiveness is the answer, because you're never going to be able to run. There's nowhere that you can run from your inner critic. The only true way to face it is to forgive yourself and to let go. And it's forgiving yourself of all the little things. Now, I always thought that forgiving yourself was like these great big things that you did wrong, like that you just couldn't let go of, like something very like dramatic, you know, like taking the life of another human. And it's like you just continue to beat yourself up and you continue to just not be able to let go of it. But what I realized through that experience is, like, it's the little things. It's the daily little self-criticisms, the things that we battle every single day, of our little mistakes and our social anxieties and all these things that we worry and fear about because we're afraid that we're going to make mistakes. Or it's like, you know, then those are paralyzing, but it's also just like actually trying and making those mistakes and just not being able to let those go. And like, just thinking, my goodness, like, I should have done that differently and blah, blah, blah. And like, it's okay to have those thoughts, but like, grace has to interject and set you free from that, and free to say, you know what? I'm okay with that mistake. This is what I learned from it. And this is what we're going to do going forward.
Yeah.
And we're probably going to mess up again. And it's like, it's that permission to just go and do and try and to fail, and knowing that God's going to forgive you and you're going to forgive yourself, because you're going to keep moving forward. And that's it. It's like, just trying and failing and being okay with failure is not,
that's not the point.
it's not okay, right? It's the moving forward beyond that and being able to take that. And that's what grace is for. That's what forgiveness is for, is because we don't have the ability for perfection.
Right.
And type 1s know that, but it doesn't stop them from trying.
Oh.
And so, you know, but God knows that God knew that we have no way to be completely perfect. And so that's why Jesus came, so that we could have forgiveness, that no longer do we have to make these atonements for our sins and the mistakes that we make, that we have permission to live and to keep going and to make mistakes and to be forgiven, and then to keep moving forward beyond that, because that's the only way that we could have true connection with Him, is if we don't let mistakes and sin keep us down, like when they do happen. It's the only way to get to the other side of them.
Whew. I mean, I don't even know how, like, no notes. I have no notes for you. Like, that's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing.
Well, it's definitely been, you know, and it's definitely still, you know, a growing experience. And
I know some days are harder than others.
They are. And just catching myself being critical of other people, that is what really hurts me the most. Like, because I feel like I can handle it, but I don't want to ever project it, you know? And I think Ian Cron or someone who's an authority or, you know, has a lot to say about Enneagram, you know, even mentioned this about type 1s. Like, if you have a type 1 in your life, and you feel the weight of their criticism, it's typically only about a thimbleful of what they feel themselves.
Which is heavy.
Yeah, it's super heavy. Being
married to a 1, knowing what you go through, like learning that you have that voice in your head, like I feel for you. I wish I could solve that for you, but I can't. So like, I'm just here for you to walk with you through it. So I'm sorry that it's so tough on you.
I literally don't know any other way.
That's true. That's a good point. You know what? That's a good point.
That was what made me feel so trapped.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause you couldn't escape it ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it didn't feel like it was going to be possible to escape it, you know, but that was when grace abounds once again.
Yes.
Forgiveness comes in and rescues once again, setting free, all that we believe that will continue to have us bound for the rest of our lives. Grace comes in and sets us free from it.
Hallelujah. Listen, I think that is a perfect stopping point. I feel like you have shared so much, just bared your heart and soul, which you do all the time. And I'm so thankful that you can articulate so clearly everything that you went through and your thought process behind all of it, thinking back to your past and then how it led you to where you are now. I really admire that about you. And someday, with maybe a little more inner critic, I can be more like you. So we'll see.
Thanks, my love.
I love you.
But yeah, so I mean, Enneagram has been incredible. We're gonna please send us your questions.
All the questions, please.
We want specifically, like we always ask for questions and open to anything. And if you have questions about anything, feel free to ask. But we just want like serious call to ask all the questions you want about the Enneagram. Please don't ask me to explain anything other than what I am, because I have no like formal training or anything on any of this stuff. I'm literally just speaking from my experience of my own self-awareness.
Right.
But please send us all your Enneagram questions. I definitely want to drop some resources for you. There's actually an author in Nashville that she's dropping a new book on the Enneagram, like next month. I'll have to put a link in that for you guys. But anyway, please send in all your questions.
We want them all.
About Jackie being a type 9, about me being a type 1, anything. Anything that you want to ask, anything about our stories, like we're going to do another episode. It may not be the next episode. We may give time to get all the questions in, but we're definitely going to do another episode answering questions, because we already got several questions that came in, or a few questions that came in.
They're going to be good.
About our Enneagram talk. And a lot of them are specific to Jackie, and like, please continue to
oh God. Send Tyler some questions, please, so I don't have to sit in the hot seat. Someone help me.
We'll break it down. We'll talk about it together. But yeah, please send those in. There's going to be a link in the show notes. Make sure, you go in and fill that out. If you need any help or just want to shoot us.
Just holler.
Yeah, if you want to shoot us a DM and ask a question.
That's cool too.
That's perfectly fine. If you have our phone numbers, send us a text or, give us a call, whatever you want to do. But like, we want to hear from you. We want to hear some of your questions. We want to discuss those. But anyway, thanks so much for listening. Thanks so much for watching on YouTube. Make sure you like and subscribe. Make sure that you
rate and review, right?
Rate and review. Add our Apple Podcast channel. I don't know how that works. Downloads. But anyway, thank you all so much for listening. Thank you so much for, just spending some time with us. Again, this is the Two is Greater podcast, where we share our experience with the ups and the downs of working together without killing each other. Not yet anyway. I'm your host, Tyler Henson. This is my lovely wife and co-host and co-business owner, co-leader, Jackie Henson.
That's me.
All right. Thanks so much. Until next time.
We'll see you soon.